Hi, I'm Chris, the practicing artist, and this is where I work in my studio. I have an easel, I do watercolor here, I do oils here. I also have a computer where I work, but this is my primary nest where I do a lot of my creating. So let me take you on a quick tour of what my art studio looks like. I know a lot of artists that work on easels, and that's great if you're doing an oil painting, and I've done oils on easels, but I primarily work on this drafting board, and it's a glass drafting board, and you can see I have some paper taped on it, and it looks a little crooked right now, and I do my watercolors on here, but I also do my oil painting on here. I can fit a fairly large canvas on this board. And the reason I have the paper on this is because it's glass. And when I'm shooting videos for you to watch, the glass causes a lot of reflectives. Also, it kind of tricks my eye when there's light reflecting off of it because the colors look differently. I also wear black because you can't see stains from the paint, but also it kind of absorbs the light. And when you're working in oil, it doesn't bounce light and color off on the canvas. So this is my drafting board. I'll move over a little bit. It's fairly large and it is glass and it's sturdy. I can keep it flat, but I primarily like it on this kind of an angle. Now you saw my palette. Not very exciting, is it? But I've had this one for, I want to say, about 10 years, and there are different manufacturers that make these palettes, and it holds my watercolors very nicely. I'm going to talk primarily about watercolor, which is what I do and what I specialize in, and the equipment that I use. I like it because I can close it and take it with me when I'm painting outside or when I'm teaching and I don't have paint going everywhere. It has enough, I'll open that up a little bit more. It has these mixing areas here, and it has two over here, and I can also take out this glass part or clear plastic part, and it gives me another mixing area if I want. So this is the palette that I've been using for a very long time, and I don't know where to look on the camera, so I'm hoping you can see my palette. Now, this looks like something you would use to mix a nice rum drink from Bacardi. I picked a lot of these up years ago at antique stores. They were supposed to be collectibles. They use them for mixing drinks and putting water in drinks, but I like them to hold my brushes. Now, you can use anything to hold your brushes. This one happens to be not sponsored, Bacardi rum. I don't know, it's pretty old, 20, 30 years old, but I love it, love it, love it. You can hear my brush noise, holding all my brushes. And I've got flats and I've got rounds in here. And if I were very organized, I would probably separate them and put them in another holder, but I'm not. I like them because they fit nicely in here and I can see everything I've got at one glance. And I have quite a collection of brushes. Some I've had for 10, 20 years, some I've had recently, and they do wear out. I even have things like, this is an old hog bristle brush, clean one that I used for acrylic that I chopped off that I can use for lifting on watercolor paper. But the important thing to me is to have something, again, I don't know where to look on the camera, to have something to hold the brushes in. If you ever see any of these in antique stores, I don't know if they're expensive, but any kind of a picture situation, I like the handle. I can just, hi there, I can just lift it like that. Let's talk water. Very important for your body, and this is probably about as much water as I would drink in an hour or two, but I wouldn't drink it from this because this is one of the containers that I use for my water, and you need two containers like this, one for clean water, one for dirty water. Depends on your point of view which one you want to use for clean, which one you want to use for dirty. Just recycle something you have at home. This is an old glass vase that I received flowers in a long time ago. This happens to be a jar from pasta from the grocery store. But remember, two containers of water. And I like using glass so I can see how very dirty my water gets. or how very clean it is. So I know I need to switch it out. But remember, you need 2 containers of water. And when I go on the road or am teaching and I need to haul my stuff out, I tend to use some plastic cups because they're a lot lighter. But typically, I like to use glass. So I'm sure you can find a lot of stuff at home that you can recycle and use for your water containers. Just remember, don't drink out of this one. This is a very dirty sponge. And I don't use it for cleaning. I don't use it for cleaning in the studio. What I use it for is when I'm painting, I tend to like to dab some of the water off the brush or some color. It's a habit I picked up years ago from one of my teachers when I put the brush in water or put the brush in color so it's not oversaturated. Sometimes I dab too much, but I like to keep one of these sponges handy and use them forever, pretty much. Sometimes if I feel like it, I'll throw it in the dishwasher, but not often. It has a certain patina right now with all these colors on it. So you can get any plain old brush. Don't get the scrubby kind. This is just a plain ordinary brush, and use it to dab the excess water or the excess color off your brush when you're working. Like I said, they'll last you forever, and don't worry about making sure that they're terribly clean. It doesn't matter. 2 spray bottles. I like things in 2s for some reason. I'm a Gemini, so maybe that has something to do with it. But in any case, I have 2 spray bottles. A little bitty one that had a label on it that said Holbein watercolors, and something that Holbein manufactured for a period of time, and it just does a very fine spray or mist of water, which I use for wetting my palette. And I also use one of these. Maybe your hairdresser or stylist uses them. I'm not going to wet my hair right now because this took a lot of work. But this is also used for wetting my palette, for cleaning up my area. I can use this one with the fine spray for dampening certain areas of my paper, but I've used these 2. Again, they last forever. So if you spend a little bit more money and get something decent, and take care of it, even with sprayers, they'll last a very long time. And these go with me again if I'm teaching on the road or staying in the studio. I always have this because you need to keep your paper moist. You need to keep your palette and your colors moist. And what better way to do it than spray bottles? So important. If you are an artist, you need to know how to draw. I'm sorry to break your heart. I have tried not to do it. If you're an abstract artist, maybe you can get away with just putting paint on a canvas or on paper. But if you want something realistic or need to lay your piece out that you're going to be painting, use a pencil. This is, I don't even know. This is just something I purchased at the grocery store again years ago. I have stuff that lasts 4 years, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. If you like spending a lot of money, you can get a mechanical pencil, or you can buy those packs of mechanical pencils at the grocery store. I like the mechanical pencils because they have a lighter feel to them. The lines are not quite as heavy. I see some of my students going really heavy with their pencil lines and they can't erase them. So how do you erase your pencil lines? I don't know if you can see this little guy. There's a couple of them here. There we go. They look odd, don't they? What they are what they call kneaded erasers. And you need this eraser, but it's spelled Kneaded, or a gum eraser. This will not take the finish off your watercolor paper. I'm sorry, I don't have a manicure. They're very inexpensive, and the thing is, you can play with it. It's almost like Play-Doh or a stress reliever. It'll take the lines off your paper in pencil for the most part. And I'm doing this because what happens is the graphite from the pencil comes off on my fingers. And it's also a great tool when you're sitting and thinking about what you're going to do next on your painting. So these are 2 essential things. You need this kind of eraser. Don't use the pink erasers. Don't use the white erasers. Use a kneaded eraser and a pencil. Very important tools in your kit if you're a watercolorist. I love paper towels. So much so that I spend a fortune on paper towels at Costco. You don't have to go to Costco, but I do recommend buying a good brand of paper towel. Not so much for lifting on your paper, but for cleaning your brushes, for cleaning this guy after you've poured the dirty water out, so you've got a clean surface, a clean container. I take them, let's see, one paper towel, or these half paper towels, and I cut them in half. And I found that kind of saves a little bit on the budget, but not a whole lot. But I love paper towels, very important. I always encourage my students, please bring some paper towels to class, and these better ones like Bounty. I don't know what other ones there are, but Bounty is a very good brand. And whatever you can get at Costco, that is their brand, Kirkland brand. Not sponsored. I love you, Costco, but you're not sponsoring me. And tissues. Now, I have allergy problems. My life revolves around tissues, not only for painting, but for my nose. And sometimes I have to be very careful not to use the same tissue that I used on my nose when I'm lifting. So on watercolor paper, but tissues are really important because you can use them for a lot of effects on paper. You can use them to clean your brushes. You can use them to lift excess water off your paper and off your brushes for cleaning your palette. Gosh, where would we be without tissues? Kleenex is a brand name, so I don't call them Kleenex. I call them facial tissues. I don't get really, really cheap ones. I've tried using the really cheap ones, and they kind of disintegrate when there's a lot of water. So get yourself a good box of facial tissues. You'll thank me, and your nose will thank me if you happen to use them for your cold and allergies too. Treat yourself. Get a good chair. I've had this one, golly, again, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I don't do much with it except sit in it. I mean, what are you supposed to do with a chair? But get a good one that supports your back, that's sturdy, that you're going to be comfortable working in. Don't get something cheap. I also use, and this one's a little worn out since the house I bought has carpeting in it, very nice carpeting, and I didn't want to get paint on it, so I used one of these office chair roller thingies that you can get at Office Depot or Walmart. I'm not a big Amazon shopper, but I'm sure you can get it at Amazon. But do yourself a favor, get a good chair that you can adjust the back and the height on, and you need to get something with rollers so you can roll back your chair and look at your work from far away. You could sit there on top of your work in your chair when you're working, but to really know what something looks like, you need to, I'm standing from the area that I have, the distance where I've rolled the chair back, so you can see what it really looks like. You have no idea when you're working on it what it looks like from far away or even from 6 feet away. Get a chair with wheels on it that you can roll. If you have carpeting, get one of these carpet protectors. But get a decent chair that's going to support your back, your legs, and you'll feel less fatigued and your work will be better. You can't paint without light. Let's face it, painting in the dark is not considered a good practice. And I'm laughing because some people don't think you need decent light to paint it. So I live in an area where it rains. I mean, it rains a lot in the winter. We live in the mountains in Georgia. And sometimes I joke that I feel like I live in Scotland because it's always kind of cloudy and rainy and cool in the winter. So I need light. And right now what you're looking at is light from the window of my studio and an overhead light that you just have in a room. But typically I have lights like this. And this is not sponsored. These are called OT lights. Let me walk around and turn them on so you can see how much light they do cast on the easel. Hang on. Hi there. Okay. Right now I have this one on, and this light mimics natural light. Now that it's off. And this is a newer model that I got. And it has a setting for full and half light. And if it's really dark out, and I mean it does get really dark here, I can also turn this one on, and it's adjustable. So I can move them around depending on how close I'm sitting. Sometimes it's too close and it bothers me. The reflection is on the paper. I can't see a thing, so I have to move things around. I also use this easel for taking images with my iPhone and iPad of my completed artwork, and these come in real handy. So they're called Ottlights, Ottlights. They're not a sponsor, but I have used Ottlights for, again, years. And you're going to go, wow, they're really expensive, but we're talking track records of 10, 15 years, and you can get replacement bulbs from them too. So get yourself some good light. If you're lucky enough, and I have north light, it's still not enough. If you're lucky enough to be in an area where you get a lot of natural light, say if you live in Florida or any other places where there's a lot of sunlight, that's great. But if you're like the rest of us and living in the normal world, you need to get yourself some good lights for your studio. I'm going to walk around a little bit and show you the layout of my little nest where I work. There's the easel that I work on, or I call it an easel. It's really a drafting board. The chair where I happen to have it this way, works for me because I'm right-handed and I can just shoot over, grab the paint, grab the water. This is one of the lights. The other light I have back here, folded down and off, but I can bring it out when I need it. I also have places to store my paintings. I have these portfolios. Since I work in watercolor, it's paper, so I don't need a lot of storage space for that. I do have places where I store my oil paintings. I have bookshelves. I like to burn scented oils when I work. It helps me relax. Places to keep all my supplies. There's never enough room. Paper that I'm using for current projects, papers and bins that I use for my students, examples of stuff to bring to classes. I also keep a fairly extensive library. Yes, they're books. Remember books? And because books aren't that popular, you can get some decent books on sale. Go to yard sales, go to antique stores, go to thrift shops. Get a book. You don't have to worry about losing the internet when you've got a book. And then I have an area where I work on the computer. I have a lot of wall space. I'm very lucky to have this room where I can also put up my paintings. They move around a lot because I'm always exhibiting and taking things to exhibits and galleries. But this is pretty much it. And I don't know about you all, or y'all, depending how you want to talk. I have to exercise to keep healthy and to have a good mood and to feel comfortable. So I have a stationary bike in here. My husband will only come in here to use the stationary bike. He has his own audio recording studio. So that's pretty much it. I'm very, very lucky to have this space, and not everybody has a space like this. But I worked in half this size for 25 years, and I was able to get work done. So treat yourself to some good materials, work with the space you have, and set yourself up a studio where you can work and create. Thanks so much for watching, and above all, just remember to keep practicing. Oh gosh, I just remembered. I gave you the tour of the studio. Now I think I need to get to work on this. It's a little watercolor I'm doing, so I'll talk to you later. Take care.